All right, Los Angeles Lakers fans, let me dive right into this because the moment this season tipped off, the air around this team already felt different. You could sense a mix of excitement and curiosity, almost like everyone was waiting to see if all the talk from the front office would actually unfold the way they claimed. And when Rob Pelinka said before the season even started that he wanted somewhere between 15 and 20 or maybe 25 games to really evaluate this roster, a lot of people wondered if that window was going to be enough. Because you do not need a crystal ball to notice what this team has been lacking since the offseason. You could see in preseason games, you could see in the early practices, and you can absolutely still see it now in the regular season. Even with this incredible record they are holding, which is impressive considering everything they have dealt with, the needs are still obvious. This team has been fantastic. 11 wins and 4 losses is something any franchise would be thrilled with, especially when the journey to get there has been full of roadblocks. But the success does not erase the fact that there are missing pieces. The Lakers need that perimeter spark, that burst of athleticism, that defender who can slide across 2 or 3 positions and still give you scoring on the other end. You want that guy who can survive the physical matchups, contest shots, cut to the basket, finish in transition, and hit the open looks when LeBron James or Luka Doncic collapse a defense. That type of player has been missing since the start, and even though the team is winning, that gap is still real. And what makes this stretch even more interesting is that the Lakers have barely played with a fully healthy roster. In fact, they only had one single game so far where every main piece was available, and that was the 15th one. Imagine navigating the toughest early schedule in the league, missing players left and right, and still coming out with 11 victories in 15 games. That tells you a lot about the underlying strength of this group, but it also tells you that even a strong team can only go so far without solving the weaknesses that continue to show up. Think about it. You had stretches where LeBron James was out, and we're not talking about losing a regular second option here. We're talking about a top 10 player in the entire league, one of the smartest and most impactful players to ever step on a court. Reeves missed time, Smart missed time, Rui missed games, even the new guys at moments where they were unavailable. There were nights when the rotation was basically the starters and a handful of G League bodies filling the bench. And through all of that, they kept winning. So no one can deny the talent. No one can deny the potential. But potential does not eliminate the need to fine-tune the roster. And the front office knows this. The question is how they interpret the timing. Are they still looking at this sample of games as enough to justify a move? Or do they look at the injuries and say that the evaluation window has not really started yet because the roster has not been whole long enough? That is where the real tension lies. Because when you zoom out, you realize that the Lakers are in a position where they could chase a championship this season. They are good enough to be in the conversation. But being good enough to contend is not the same thing as being the absolute best version of yourself. You can always improve. You can always sharpen the areas that drag you down in matchups against the elite teams. You do not want to walk into the postseason thinking you might be one perimeter defender short or one versatile wing short. That is the type of mistake that can cost a team in the second round or the conference finals, where every gap becomes a target. And that is why the upcoming trade window becomes so important. Not because panic is needed, but because opportunity is there. The Lakers have several players who might end up becoming trade chips, not because they lack value, but because the roster construction may require balancing. Vincent has shown flashes, but still has limitations. Kleba has struggled to find rhythm. Vanderbilt is barely seeing the floor. Connect is developing, but might be needed in a package. Rui is talented, but may become the piece that gets you in the door for a bigger upgrade. When you combine the salaries of several of those players, the team suddenly has the ability to match the contract of a high-impact wing or defender. That is where the whole conversation shifts. A move does not need to be rushed. December is usually when the trade season really starts to heat up since players signed in the offseason finally become eligible to move. But the real action always comes closer to the deadline because that is when teams with disappointing records start letting go of players they know they will not keep long-term. Prices drop. Negotiations get real. And that is why patience matters. Pelinka has been at his best when he operates with patience, not pressure. Every time he waits for the right moment, he seems to strike gold, and the team benefits from it. But there is another side to patience that can sometimes hurt teams that are doing extremely well. When a roster starts stacking wins, the front office can get comfortable. And that is the fear fans have right now, because the Lakers could easily go on a dominant stretch. Their schedule is about to get a lot lighter. They could stack wins, maybe something like 20 Doys victories and 4 losses, something wild like that. And suddenly the temptation arrives. The temptation to say this team is fine and does not need adjustments. And that is where things get tricky. Winning can hide flaws until it is too late. A great regular season does not always translate to playoff dominance, especially against the absolute top competitors. You still need those missing ingredients. So the big question becomes how Pelinka is seeing all of this. Is he viewing the 15 games as enough information to make a move? Or does he believe that the clock does not even begin until the team is fully healthy for a longer stretch? And while he thinks through all this, the needs remain clear, the opportunities remain available, and the window to improve will open soon. And the moment you start thinking about how this front office might approach the next few weeks, you can almost feel the tension building. Because while this team is proving every night that it belongs in the upper tier of the league, the real test is coming when the schedule puts them in front of the giants they will eventually face in the postseason. Winning against solid but not elite teams builds confidence, but facing the absolute best exposes everything you still have to work on. And everybody remembers how the last few postseasons have gone. The Lakers can hang with strong teams, but when a matchups start getting surgical and every possession matters, that missing burst of athleticism on the wing, that lack of a consistent perimeter defender, that absence of a performer who can take the toughest assignment without sacrificing offense, all of that becomes glaring. That is why the next steps matter so much. It is not about changing the identity of this team. It is not about replacing what is working. It is about reinforcing the foundation so it does not crack when the pressure reaches the highest level. And this roster, as good as it has been, has shown moments where those weaknesses appear exactly when opponents start targeting them. Against faster guards who can break down defenses, against wings who thrive in isolation, against teams that rely on spacing and movement, the Lakers have to work too hard to cover ground. When the rotations are sharp, they survive. When they're even slightly late, they suffer. And that margin of error is too small for a team with championship expectations. Once trade season officially opens, the landscape will shift fast. Every year we see several teams completely change their approach based on how their record looks near the midpoint of the season. Some franchises lock into playoff mode and start looking for upgrades. Others realize they are not going anywhere and begin listening to offers for players who can help contenders. And when that moment arrives, the Lakers need to be ready. They need to know exactly what they want, exactly who fits, and exactly how far they're willing to go to solidify a roster that has championship capability but still lacks certain tools. And it is not just about which players they can acquire. It is about which players they are willing to let go. Every move has a ripple effect. If you trade multiple rotation players to acquire one high-level wing, you need to be prepared to fill the gaps around the edges. It is not just about acquiring talent. It is about maintaining balance. If you move someone who brings physicality, you need to replace that. If you move a shooter, you need to keep spacing intact. If you move a secondary playmaker, you cannot leave yourself in a situation where LeBron James or Luka Doncic have to carry that load every minute they are on the floor. These are the types of details that determine whether a trade strengthens a contender or disrupts its chemistry. What encourages fans right now is that Pelinka has shown in each of the last few seasons that he is willing to pull the trigger when the timing is right. He does not panic. He does not force deals. When a moment arrives, he strikes. And most of the time, the moves he makes end up paying off in a significant way. But the hope among the fan base is that this time he uses the team's success as leverage, not as justification for standing still. When you are winning, you hold all the power in negotiations. You are not desperate. You can walk away if the price is too high. You can dictate the terms. And that is exactly the position a contender wants to be in when the trade market heats up. But even with all that leverage, there is still the possibility that the team's success leads to hesitation. If the Lakers go on a run where they dominate and string together victory after victory, the front office might begin to convince itself that no changes are necessary, that the team is strong enough as is, that they can trust the roster to carry them through the postseason. That is the scenario fans worry about, because the flaws that show up now will not magically disappear in May. They just become harder to hide the deeper you go into the playoffs. And while this team has the talent to beat almost anyone on any given night, the playoffs are not about one night. They're about winning 4 times against the same opponent. They're about adjustments, matchups, physicality, and the ability to counter what the other team throws at you. The Lakers need to be prepared for that level of chess. Once you start looking at the bigger picture, you can see how much the next stretch of games might influence everything. If LeBron James continues to find his rhythm alongside Doncic, if Reeves settles into a more consistent scoring groove, if the role players keep delivering with energy and precision, the Lakers will put themselves in a position where they can dictate the direction they want to take. The front office can approach teams from a position of strength instead of necessity. And that is where championship teams separate themselves from the pack. They do not wait for problems to cost them games. They solve the problems before the losses start to appear. And while nobody expects a move tomorrow, what matters is whether Pelinka treats these next weeks as an extended evaluation or a confirmation of what has already been obvious since the summer. That perimeter defender is still missing. That athletic wing who can guard multiple positions is still missing. That two-way threat who can elevate the ceiling in key playoff matchups is still missing. And whether the Lakers finish this stretch with 20 victories or not, the biggest question is whether the front office recognizes that this team, as strong as it is, can still take a leap that transforms them from contender to favorite. What fans want to see is action driven not by panic, but by ambition. They want the front office to look at this roster and say, yes, we are good, but we can be better. Yes, we are winning, but we can dominate. Yes, we can compete with anyone, but we want to control the narrative instead of reacting to it. That mindset is what leads to championships. That mindset is what turns strong seasons into historic ones. So everything now comes down to how Pelinka and the organization interpret what they are seeing. Do they view this strong start as validation of the roster's core and an invitation to maximize its potential? Or do they view it as a signal that they can stay put and trust the current version to carry them through? The next games will not just determine wins and losses. They will shape the strategy, the urgency, and the decisions that define the rest of the season and possibly the next several years. Before we continue, we ask that you leave a like and subscribe to the channel so you won't miss any exclusive Lakers updates. Moving on, the Los Angeles Lakers may be on the verge of a major shakeup that could send shockwaves through the NBA. Rumors are swirling around the league that Bam Adebayo, the versatile big man known for his defensive prowess and playmaking ability, could be the latest high-profile addition to the Lakers roster. While nothing has been confirmed, sources suggest that the team is in serious discussions to bring Adebayo to Los Angeles, and fans are already imagining the potential impact on the court. Adebayo, who has long been considered one of the most well-rounded centers in the league, would bring a rare combination of strength, agility, and basketball IQ to a Lakers team that has been searching for consistency in the paint. Analysts are already speculating how his presence could reshape the team's offensive schemes, particularly in pick-and-roll situations where his passing ability could unlock a previously underutilized dimension to the Lakers' attack. Defensively, his ability to switch on guards and protect the rim would fill a glaring need, potentially making the Lakers one of the most formidable front-court units in the league. The buzz in Los Angeles is palpable. Social media channels are ablaze with fan theories, mock lineups, and even memes imagining Adebayo sporting the iconic purple and gold. Some are drawing comparisons to past Lakers big men who dominated both ends of the floor, while others are wondering how this move might affect existing stars on the roster. Will the Lakers have enough cap space to make it happen? Could this spark a chain reaction of trades and free agent moves? The uncertainty is only fueling excitement and speculation. Inside sources hint that the Lakers management sees Adebayo as more than just a player. They see him as a potential cornerstone for the team's future. Conversations are reportedly ongoing and intensive, though no official statements have been released. For now, the city waits, hungry for confirmation, while the rumor mill spins faster with every passing hour. If true, this acquisition could redefine the Lakers' trajectory and add a new layer of intrigue to the already electrifying NBA landscape. One thing is certain: Bam Adebayo in a Lakers jersey would be one of the most talked-about storylines of the season. Stay informed exclusively about Los Angeles Lakers news. Subscribe to our channel and hit the like button to keep receiving daily updates. Also, share your opinion on the news in the comments, as your contribution is crucial for the Lakers. Stay tuned for the next video.